What do you do when the person you love starts getting better and you realize that's the most terrifying thing of all? They say grief changes people, that time heals all wounds, that eventually the ones we love will find their way back to themselves. But they don't tell you what to do when someone comes back wrong. When they're too strong, too energetic, too perfect. When they move without shadows and smile without warmth reaching their eyes. When you realize the person taking care of you isn't the person you remember at all. This is the story of my father's miraculous recovery, and why I'm now trapped in my childhood home, afraid to turn around when he calls my name. I'm 23 years old, and I live with my father in a house that's older than most of the trees on our street. It wasn't supposed to be this way. The plan was college, career, my own apartment with furniture I actually chose instead of inherited, independence, adulthood, all the things you're supposed to achieve by your mid-20s. But life has a way of rewriting plans in invisible ink. My mother died 3 years ago. Breast cancer. Stage 4 by the time they caught it. 6 months from diagnosis to funeral. My father aged a decade in those 6 months, grief settling into his bones like calcium deposits, hardening him from the inside out. After she died, he became a statue. He'd sit in his armchair, the brown leather recliner that had molded itself to his shape over 2 decades, and watch old black and white westerns on the classic movie channel. Sometimes I'd come home from my warehouse job and find him in the exact same position I'd left him in that morning, the TV playing to an audience of one who wasn't really watching. The economy wasn't great. My wages barely covered my student loan payments. His pension was enough for the house and utilities, nothing more. When my lease came up for renewal with a 30% rent increase, the decision made itself. Just temporary, I told my friends, until I save up enough. That was 18 months ago. It wasn't terrible. The house was big enough that we didn't crowd each other. I worked late shifts at the warehouse, 3 to 11 p.m., 4 days a week. He'd leave me dinner in the microwave, usually something simple, spaghetti, frozen pizza, occasionally a sad-looking grilled cheese. We had a rhythm. Not happy exactly, but functional. 2 lonely people existing in parallel, united by grief and economic necessity. Until a month ago, when everything changed. It started with the pipe. I came home from work on a Tuesday. I remember because Tuesdays were inventory days, and I always came home exhausted with aching feet and dust in my lungs to find the house silent except for a strange banging sound coming from the basement. The basement door was open, which was unusual. My father hadn't gone down there in months. The stairs were steep and uneven, and his knees weren't what they used to be. "Dad?" I called down. "You okay?" "Got it handled," his voice echoed up through the darkness, cheerful, in a way I hadn't heard since before Mom died. "You sure? I can help." "I said I've got it." He was down there for 3 hours. I ate leftover Chinese food and watched TV, periodically walking to the basement door to listen for sounds of distress. All I heard was the occasional clang of metal on metal, the sound of someone working with purpose. When he finally emerged, he was covered in dirt and grime, his white t-shirt gray with dust, his hands black with grease. But he was grinning. A real full-faced grin that showed teeth, the kind of smile that crinkles the corners of your eyes. "All sorted," he announced, clapping his dirty hands together. Dust motes floated in the overhead light. "Leaks fixed.
Good as new." He looked energized, alive in a way I hadn't seen since Mom's diagnosis. "That's great," I said, surprised and pleased. "You want me to order pizza? Celebrate your victory over plumbing?" "Already ate," he said, still grinning. "But you go ahead. I'm going to take a shower. Feeling good, son, real good." I should have questioned it. The sudden energy, the enthusiasm for home repair, the fact that he'd tackled a job he'd been putting off for months. But I was just so relieved to see him happy. The next morning, I woke to a smell I hadn't experienced in years. Bacon frying, coffee brewing, the warm, homey scent of breakfast being cooked with care. I stumbled downstairs in my pajamas to find my father at the stove, humming, actually humming. Some old tune I half remembered from childhood. "Morning, son!" His voice was bright, almost musical. "Eggs? I'm making scrambled, but I can do 'em over easy if you want." I stood in the doorway, blinking stupidly. "When did you haven't cooked breakfast since your mother died," he finished, his smile not faltering. "I know. Been too long, hasn't it? Decided it was time to stop sitting around waiting to die. Life's for living, right?" He served me a plate, perfectly scrambled eggs, crispy bacon, toast with the edges just slightly burnt the way I liked it. Things he remembered. Details I assumed he'd forgotten in his grief fog. "This is amazing," I said, and meant it. "Thanks, Dad." "My pleasure." He sat across from me with his own plate, and I noticed his posture. Straighter, stronger, like someone had removed 20 pounds of weight from his shoulders. "Got big plans today. Lawn needs mowing, gutters need cleaning. Probably should oil those door hinges. They've been squeaking for months." Over the next week, he became a whirlwind of activity. He mowed the lawn in neat, perfect rows. He cleaned the gutters, hauling a ladder I thought was too heavy for him to move. He oiled every hinge in the house until the doors swung silent as whispers. He repainted the porch railings. He fixed the wobbly fence posts in the backyard. My father, who 6 weeks ago couldn't make it up the stairs without stopping to breathe, was carrying all the groceries in from the car in a single trip, bags hanging off his arms like he was 25 instead of 68. I was thrilled, relieved. I thought grief had finally loosened its grip. I thought I was getting my dad back. I was wrong.
The first warning sign came on a Friday night. I had plans. First night off in 2 weeks, meeting some guys from work at a bar downtown. Nothing crazy, just beer and pool and a few hours of not thinking about inventory systems and forklift certification. I was putting on my jacket when he appeared in the living room doorway, his face pale, one hand pressed to his chest. "You're going out?" His voice was tight, strained. "Yeah, just for a few hours. You okay? You look—" "My chest," he said, wincing. "It's tight. Probably nothing, just indigestion, I'm sure, but—" He swayed slightly, gripping the doorframe. My keys were already halfway to my pocket. "Should I call 911? Dad, if you're having a heart attack—" No, nothing like that." He waved a dismissive hand, but his breathing seemed labored. "I'm sure it'll pass. I wouldn't want to be alone if it gets worse. You know, just in case." What was I supposed to do? Leave while my father was having chest pains? I took off my jacket, ordered pizza. We watched The Magnificent Seven for probably the 100th time in my life. His chest pain vanished the moment I sat down on the couch. 2 days later,
I tried again. Different friends, different plans. This time it was his back. Seized up so badly, he claimed he couldn't get off the sofa to get himself water. I spent 3 hours fetching things, rubbing his shoulders, listening to him groan in pain. The instant my friend called asking where I was and I said I couldn't make it, he suddenly felt a bit better and managed to walk to the bathroom unassisted. It became a pattern. Every single time I made plans that didn't involve work. Migraine, dizziness, stomach bug, vertigo, a cough that sounded like pneumonia but disappeared by bedtime. After the 4th time, I confronted him. "I can't be your prisoner," I shouted, my frustration finally boiling over. "I need to have a life outside this house." His face crumpled. Not with anger. I could have dealt with anger. Instead, he looked devastated, hurt in a way that felt like I'd slapped him. "I just need you here," he whispered, and his voice was so small, so lost. "Is that so much to ask? I get lonely. Your mother's gone. You're all I have." And what could I say to that? What kind of monster would I be to abandon my grieving elderly father because I wanted to drink beer with acquaintances? I stayed home. Again, and again, and again. But here's the thing that didn't make sense. Between the episodes, he was stronger than ever. He'd carry furniture single-handed. He'd work in the yard for hours without breaking a sweat. He moved with an energy and grace my father had never possessed even in his youth. It was like living with 2 different people, the frail, needy invalid who needed me desperately, and the vigorous, capable man who seemed to have found a fountain of youth in our basement. The contradiction gnawed at me. But I told myself it was just grief, just loneliness, just an old man afraid of losing his last connection to family. I was lying to myself. The truth revealed itself on a Saturday afternoon. We were in the backyard. He'd been weeding the flower beds, Mom's rose bushes, her peonies, her lavender that still bloomed every summer like she'd never left. I was sitting on the porch steps, scrolling through my phone, when I noticed something wrong. The sun was directly overhead, blazing down without mercy. Everything cast a shadow. Me, the porch railing, the bird bath, the lawn chairs, the rose bushes. Except him. He knelt in the dirt, solid and real, but the ground around him showed no shadow. Just unbroken green grass and brown earth, as if he wasn't there at all. I blinked hard, rubbed my eyes, looked away and looked back. Still nothing. A shadowless man in a world full of shadows. Cold fingers walked up my spine. "Hey, Dad?" I called, my voice coming out wrong, too high. "Can you help me move this?" I pointed to a heavy terracotta planter in full sunlight. He looked up, and for just a second I saw panic flash across his face. He shielded his eyes with his hand. "In a minute. Just want to finish this section." He never came over. As the afternoon progressed, he moved with the shade, always keeping himself in the shadow of the house or trees. After that, I watched him obsessively. He never stood by the windows during the day. If a ray of sunlight fell across him in the living room, he'd find an excuse to move. He only took walks in the evening after sunset. He was avoiding the sun, actively avoiding it. And I realized I couldn't remember the last time I'd seen him in direct sunlight. My worry curdled into fear. The excuses to keep me home intensified. He unplugged my car battery and claimed ignorance.
He lost the front door key, trapping us both inside for an entire day until he found it that evening. 2 nights ago, I tried to talk to him. "Dad, you're not yourself. You haven't been since you went to fix that pipe. Something happened down there, didn't it?" His face went completely still. The warmth drained from his eyes, replaced by something flat and watchful. "I fixed a pipe. That's all. Now drop it." The finality in his voice was absolute. The conversation was over. That's when I knew with complete certainty the answer was in the basement.
Last night, I waited until I heard his bedroom door close. Then I waited another hour, listening to the house settle, gathering my courage. Finally, I crept downstairs in the dark. The basement door was cold to the touch. The knob turned with a click that sounded like a gunshot in the silence. The smell hit me immediately. Damp earth and something else. Something sweet and metallic. The smell of decay. I used my phone's flashlight, descending the rickety stairs one careful step at a time. The basement looked normal at first. Junk piled in corners. Old furniture under sheets. Boxes of Mom's things I still couldn't bear to sort through. Then I saw the disturbed earth. Near the water pipe, a section of the dirt floor looked different, darker, looser, freshly dug. I found a garden trowel. My hands shook as I knelt down and started digging. The earth gave way easily, too easily. A foot down, my trowel hit something soft, fabric, denim, his favorite work jeans. I dug faster, gasping, tears streaming down my face. A leg, a torso in his faded flannel shirt, and then the face. My father, the real one. His eyes closed, his mouth slightly open, a dark gash on the side of his head, crusted with dried blood. He looked peaceful in a horrible, final way. He'd been dead for a month, lying here while I'd been living with... Creak!
A footstep at the top of the stairs. I turned slowly, my phone's light following my gaze upward. He stood there, in silhouette, watching, waiting. Then he started down the stairs, moving with that fluid grace my real father never had. The light caught his face. He was wearing Dad's pajamas. He had Dad's tired eyes and graying hair. And he was smiling. A sad, pitying smile that was more terrifying than any rage. "I knew you'd find your way down here eventually," he said in my father's voice, but smoother, calmer. "I'm sorry you had to see this." I scrambled backward until I hit the wall. He stopped a few feet from the grave, looking down at the body with genuine sorrow. It was an accident. The second to last step, it's rotten. He was carrying the heavy wrench. His balance was off. He fell, hit his head on the concrete right there. He looked at me with something that almost seemed like empathy. His last thought was for you, worried you'd be alone. "What are you?" My voice came out as a terrified whisper. It tilted its head. "I'm him, and I'm not. Every person casts a shadow in the light, yes? Think of me as the other shadow, the one that lives on the other side of the veil. We exist in the shape of our doubles. We feel what they feel." He took a step closer. That last thought, his love for you, his fear of leaving you alone, it was so powerful, a life cut short with so much left to give. It created a space, and it pulled me through. I am his love, his duty, his need to take care of you given form. He gestured around the basement. I finished his work, fixed the pipe, buried him so you wouldn't have to. I've been taking care of the house, taking care of you, being a good father. My dad is dead! Tears blurred my vision. Yes, it said, and the sadness seemed genuine. He is, and I'm so sorry, but I'm here now. It knelt down so we were eye level, its face inches from mine. He loved you more than anything, and so do I. I will never leave you. I will take care of you. We can be a family, just like he wanted. Its breath was cold against my face. Forever.
That was last night. He let me go upstairs, followed behind me the whole way. Now he's in the living room, watching television as if nothing happened, as if my real father isn't buried in the dirt beneath our feet. I'm locked in my closet, writing this on my phone. I can hear him moving, the soft, silent footsteps coming down the hall. He's calling my name. It sounds exactly like my dad. I know I can't escape. The doors are locked. He's stronger than any human. He doesn't sleep. He'll never age. He'll never get sick. He'll just be here, taking care of me, keeping me trapped in this house with my father's love made manifest forever. The footsteps have stopped outside my door. Son? His voice is gentle, patient. I understand, but we'll get through this together. We're family. That's what family does. The doorknob is turning. I'll always take care of you. Always. Your father's love will never let you go. The door is opening. I can see his shadow stretching across the floor in the light from the hallway. Except it's not his shadow. It's something else. Something impossibly long and wrong, with too many angles reaching toward me like fingers. He steps into view, smiling that sad, loving smile. Come on out, son. Let's go have some dinner. I made your favorite. And I realize this is my life now, living with a thing wearing my dead father's face, animated by his love, trapped by his devotion. They say a parent's love never dies. They're right. And that's the most terrifying thing of all.
If this story left you unsettled, unable to look at your own shadow quite the same way, you're not alone. Sometimes the most horrifying thing isn't a monster that wants to hurt you. It's something that loves you so much it refuses to let you go. If this psychological horror affected you, please hit that like button and subscribe for more cinematic, true horror stories. Share your own unexplainable experiences in the comments. Have you ever felt like someone you loved wasn't quite themselves anymore? Have you ever seen something that defied explanation? Drop a candlelight in the comments if you're watching this alone at night. And remember, check on your loved ones, but maybe check their shadows too, because sometimes the thing that loves you most isn't the thing you think it is. Until next time, watch the shadows, trust your instincts,
And remember that love, true, desperate, all-consuming love, can become its own kind of prison. Because the scariest question isn't what happens when we die. It's what happens when the dead refuse to leave us behind.